Hey everybody! Today we're going to be taking a look at the last video of our Castle Magic tutorial series, and specifically we're going to be looking at action spells and how we can utilize those. So let's get started. So the first thing I'd like to take a look at is the Make Invisible and Make Visible spells. Now what we've got set up here is a Magic Start Detector that is going to make the target item invisible, and that's going to be this guy right here, so our little koi pond. And then in this button, we have the Make Visible spell. So let's go ahead and demonstrate those and see what they do. So when we start the area, you'll see our object turns off. And whenever we press this button, it makes it visible again. So that's a pretty self-explanatory one. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our start detector here. Okay, so our our item is always visible. The next one I'd like to take a look at is the translucent or make opaque and make translucent spells. So these are like the make opaque spell is basically make visible, and the make translucent is like a in between of visible and invisible. So whenever we turn this lever on, it make it opaque, which doesn't do anything obviously. But when we turn it off, you'll see it makes our koi pond transparent. So transparency obviously doesn't mean that you lose the hitbox like you would with make invisible. Um, it's just a kind of halfway in between point. Okay, so that is that one. Over here we have the grow and shrink spells. So make larger or make smaller. Okay, whenever I press the pressure plate, it'll make our koi pond bigger, and when I get off it, it'll make it smaller. I mentioned this, I think, in our first Castle Magic video, that you can make an object grow 8 times, and you can make it shrink 3 times before you reach its kind of max limit, sort of thing. Consecutively, you can do it as many times in between, but as long as you've reached 3 shrinks or 8 grows, that's when it kind of stops. So that's those two. The next one I'd like to take a look at is the move backward and move forward spells. So move backward, when we press it, will make it move a little bit backwards from the position it's facing, right? So our koi pond is facing this direction, so move backwards a little bit. And if we do more forward, same thing, just forward. Okay, so if I say like turned this a little bit that way, it would move that way instead and back this way and stuff like that. Okay, our next one is move up and move down. So both move up and move down have unit measurements of from 50, 100, and 250, right? So I'm just going to use the max version, and you can see how far down that goes. So if we move it down, right, you'll see it's just barely visible right here in the ground. Okay, and if we move it up, it goes back like that. Cool. So, obviously 50 is drastically less than that, and 100's kind of in between, sort of. Sorry about those Discord notifications. The next thing I'd like to take a look at is the move in cardinal directions spells. So your cardinal directions, like your compass sort of thing, you have north, east, south, and west, right? And all of those have a movement unit of 50, 100, and 250, right? So I put the 100 units on these. So let's go ahead and test those out. So we've got that way and that way. And those will always go in those directions. It's a good idea to maybe get your get like a 50 version unit of each of these spells so you can test which direction you want something to go. But yeah, that's all those do. They're pretty self-explanatory. So let's take a look at the next one. So next up, we've got move the target a little in my direction, right? And my direction means wherever the activator is. So in this instance, because our activator is this, the thing that's casting the spell, is our pressure plate, it'll move a little bit towards this pressure plate, right? And whenever I get off this pressure plate, it'll restore the state of all objects. So that's all of the objects in the area, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we get on it, See, it moved a little bit in our direction. If we get off it, it teleports straight back to where it was. Now that is true for every object in the house, right? Except for the pets over there and stuff. But basically, it restores all objects from their castle magic stuff. So this would restore it back to visible again if it was set to be invisible and stuff like that. So yeah, that does basically does that. The next one, I don't have it in here right now, but that's going to be restore the state of objects near the target. Now that target's going to be whatever you choose, right? And it'll just do it in an area around them instead of all of the or all of the stuff in the house, right? So hopefully that one made sense. The next one I'd like to take a look at is our make the target object move here, right? So that's going to be to, again, to wherever your activator is. So in this case, it's our magic jump detector, right? So when we jump, it will move the koi pond all the way over to us, right? So this obviously would not stop if it hit us, sort of thing, so we would get stuck in that, which is why I moved out of the way. But if you jump, see, it doesn't do anything else. But yeah, so it'll move there kind of in that slow sort of manner. I've used this to make like, I'll show it off in another video, but it's basically a boat that goes around the entirety of the storm house, and that was really cool, a fun little project to work on there. But yeah, so that is the move object here spell. The next one we've got is the restore object's position, right? And this will just restore the object to where it was in terms of rotation and location, right? So if its original position is here, it'll go back there, but if it's invisible, it'll still stay invisible, unlike it would if we used the restore the state of all objects sort of thing. So let's go ahead and jump real quick, right? And we'll done. So that is restore location, right? And the next one we have is teleport object here. So I'm going to move back just a little bit. And see, it teleports straight there. Just do that just to show it off one more time. Boom. And it moves it straight back here. So that is just a much quicker way of doing your move here sort of thing. It just instantly teleports it. So that one's pretty useful. The next ones I'd like to take a look at are our rotation spells. So we've got turn object counterclockwise and turn object clockwise. And these both can go from 15, 45, and 90 degrees, right? So after those happen, so I'm going to do this from the firestorm ice off thing. So the ice, whenever it turns it to ice, it will turn to look like the object, or turn to the orientation of the activator. And we'll see which way. It's not super clear which way this brazier's facing, but it will be whenever we go ahead and use that spell. And then the last one is going to have our object face the activator, right? So it's the turn towards me spell. And yeah, that just, the last two basically will go off of whatever our activator is. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got the counterclockwise 90, the clockwise 90, the turn its orientation to our activator spell, right? So our activator is facing off in this direction, basically. And then the turn to look at our activator. So yeah, I hope that makes some sense. The next thing I'd like to take a look at, and I showed this off in our first video as well, but if we say, hi, that was the teleport all players to the target, right? So I've got this magical text detector that takes the hi menu chat in the entire area, and whenever anyone says that, it teleports all the players to this location, right? And then the next one we have is the teleport nearest player. So that'll be nearest to the reflector, or to the activator, which happens to be this reflector. So if I had another friend in the area that was, say, standing right here while I was standing over there, it would have teleported him over to here. instead of me from over there to over here. So I hope that makes sense. Again, a lot of these closest to things will always be talking about the reflector or the activator of whatever spell it was, right? So that's basically it. And how I did that was I just had this magic player detector go off. And technically, if I wanted to, I could remove this, right? And we could have this teleport the nearest player to that target. So basically what this will do is whenever we go through our player detector over there, it'll teleport us to this reflector right here. So we do the same thing just without having to use another activate reflector thing. So let's go back over there by saying hi, right? So that was the all players, and that was the closest player version. So that is about all of the normal action spells. The last one, this one kind of confuses me a little bit. I don't completely know how to use this, but what we've got here is the solidify and unsolidify movement spells. I've looked up on the wiki and on forum posts, and I can't really tell you what these do. I thought basically if an object was moving, it would stop if it hit another object, right? So I've got this balloon every second, according to this timer, it's going to move to the, basically move towards this thing, right? And this is a Beast Moon planter. So it'll move towards our planter right here. And what I thought would happen is if it reached that planter, it would ignore any other movement spells towards that planter, right? So let's check that out and see. Goes off. See, and it just kind of goes through and keeps going. So I'm not really sure what that was supposed to do, but the unsolidify movement, the idea behind this was that it would stop there, and then if I press this button, it would be able to continue going, because this allows an object to move through other objects. But that didn't really seem to work. So yeah, not really sure about that one. But the rest, I hope this stuff over here made sense, and I hope this teleportation thing wasn't too confusing. But yeah, so that's the end of this video. I'm sorry if it was a little confusing for some of y'all. I know I went over this kind of fast. Um, but yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you liked the video. Again, this is the last part of our normal tutorial series. The next part of this series will be covering specific things. So I think the first one's going to be cutscenes, and specifically how to remake the cutscene that I did in my original video, the house that I first showed off. And we'll just kind of go from there. It'll be a lot less structured than what I've got going on, but hopefully it's helpful for y'all. And I'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a good day. Bye.